Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, its public rollback netcode test is actually going to be out February 23rd, Pacific Standard Time in 1500, which is 3 p.m. for people who don't know military time. But so yeah, here we go. We have another older game that's actually getting rolled back netcode, and Central Fiction was the last Blaze Blue game that they actually put rollback netcode in. Was there some older Guilty Gear games they put rollback netcode in also, if I'm not mistaken?
Accent Core Plus R.
Yeah. So they've been doing this with a good amount of games now. Shout out Arxis and all the different people who's doing it. But so we wanted to talk about with this another COVID topic in this era that we're in right now, like how paramount and how like great it is that people are actually going back and putting rollback into these old games, because in the time we're in now, with online not being great for a good amount of our fighting games, I mean, these developers, they could actually get a great shot at their old games just going back and putting netcode in them. They can get a real good fair shake because people are needing stuff to play. Not every new game that comes out now, people really, it's everybody's cup of tea. So starting with you, Mr. Gaming Left, like, can you speak on this? Let us know how you feel like it's impactful that these old games are getting rolled back in times like this.
Well, this is just something that's kind of been a trend going. I mean, even beyond rollback, you got stuff like Fightcade, Parsec, allowing a lot of different games that didn't have decent online play or online play at all to have an environment. And I think Accent Core Plus R was the first game I think that Arxis did experiment with, and it actually went pretty well. I played it a bit when it first came out. It was pretty smooth. Then we got Central Fiction, and now we got the Cross Tag. I think it's pretty dope that it'll give these older games, kind of some revitalization, because when they added it to Central Fiction, like from what I've seen, it kind of like revitalized the game. You're seeing people, I think NLBCs for it, I think, or something like that. So the people that have been playing it, like the hardcore audience and the people that have been playing it for just years, like they're like, man, we finally got our time to shine. Like we can play these games decently online, because it's I think Arxis is kind of known, excuse me, to be in one of those companies, like some of their games are kind of harder, like especially like Blaze Blue is probably one of their harder games, like in terms of some of the execution. Like there are certain characters where it's like, look, there's no point for me to even try to play this character online because I can't do the execution that's required for it. I think Naruto being like one of the most notorious for that. Like people were saying, man, there's no point to play Naruto online because I can't do these cancels and these like all this intricate stuff I need to do. So with the rollback, that allows people to be more open online with certain character choices. I think it's dope though. I mean, seeing this stuff, with all these older games, and I mean, may not just be older games. They might do it with other games. I mean, people have been throwing that idea out that Dragon Ball FighterZ gets rolled back. Since Arxis is doing it with so many of their games, it's like, but I don't know if at this point with Dragon Ball FighterZ, they're probably just gonna go for a second game and probably do it in that one. But yeah, I think it's dope, man, to give these people a chance to play their games online without having to be so stressed. Because there's nothing worse than playing an online game that you love and it's just like, bro, I can't do this. It's nothing worse than that, because you love a game, you want to play it, but when it just doesn't allow for it, it's really stressful. I dealt with that with Street Fighter V, man. I enjoy Street Fighter V, but I will say that a lot of the times the online was what just made me stop playing. It just wasn't an enjoyable experience. It's like, I can't play like this. Like, I want to play, but I can't, so I just think that, them taking the time to be like, hey, let's do this, add it back into the older games, it might bring them back out. Because, I mean, I don't think at this point Cross Tag is a super popular game anymore. But again, like with Central Fiction, just adding rollback will probably bring life back into the game. So I think it's dope, man. And like I said, it's been happening over a broad spectrum. Fightcade, you got all these older games, MVC2, JoJo, like all of these old arcade games being able to be played with pretty decent online, and that's never been seen before. So I just hope this trend continues, man.
Yeah, I agree with Game and Lift that it's great to see some of these older games get rolled back, especially games that they were cherished for their time when people were playing them offline, and now that they're getting rollback, seeing the old heads come back to it, and then also it get new players as well. It just increases the variety of fighting games that we have available. Now is the greatest time ever to be a fighting game fan because there's just so many games out there to play, and there's more being added every year. Um, with Persona 4, I know Persona 4 Arena is coming back, and Atlas said that it won't have rollback from the get go, but they're looking into it, and they should have added it to begin with. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it's really great, especially Arxis, since Arxis is like the leader of the rollback craze right now, just because they hit it out of the park with Strive and also Accent Core Plus R. It's really good to see them add rollback to a lot of their older games and for new audiences to be drawn to it. And plus, let's be honest, it's kind of like easy money for them in a sense, in that I don't know like how costly it is. I know for more complex games, like let's say Guilty Gear, like Rev 2, like the X-Art series, I know it's a bit harder to add rollback to that just because you're dealing with 3D models and everything. But for like the older games where it's like a 2D pixel art style, that's a little bit easier. So adding rollback to that isn't as bad. And I mean, you put it out there and people are willing to buy this game that's like years old at this point. So, that's easy money for these companies. So I don't see a reason why they don't do it with more of their games unless there's just like technical complications to it. But yeah, it's good to see BlazBlue Cross Tag get rollback. I definitely wouldn't mind hopping on there. I bought the game at launch, but never really just got into it. I know Cross Tag, it's a whole other level from like normal BlazBlue. Like I know to my understanding, like people who play Central Fiction, like the other regular BlazBlue games, they don't see Cross Tag as like the same thing. They see it as like its own little series. It's like it's BlazBlue in name alone. I'll put it that way. But it's really good to see Central Fiction and Cross Tag, get their shine. It was great watching all these streams, like players, new players get into Central Fiction and like old players come back and really enjoy Central Fiction with the rollback. It's kind of funny how we just been begging for rollback for over a decade now. And now that the developers have actually listened to us and, the pandemic, forced their hand a bit. But now that they finally added into these games and they're seeing the benefits, like, oh, so this is what you all wanted? Maybe we should have done this from the get-go. It's like, yeah, you should have. But, but yeah, anyway, just a long story short, I just like Mr. Game Lift, I'm glad to see that so many games are coming back and they're getting rolled back and people are enjoying them. At the end of the day, the FGC is a small community, so it's just good to have variety with a bunch of games. And I'm hoping to see other games get rolled back too. Like it would be really good if Under Night could get rolled back. That would be amazing. I can't think of any other games right off the top of my head that could realistically get rolled back. I know some people have been asking for like Fighters. I don't know. I don't think Fighters is going to get rolled back. It would be great if they did that, but I think at this point they probably just be better off just making an entirely new game. So.
And one thing that's realistic is Capcom, it has this countdown, and we know that Maximilian did the whole, campaign for MVC2, so we might get a re-release of that, and it might have rollback in it. So, I ain't saying that's gonna be funny. It.
He actually talked about that, and he said that if you think that they're doing MVC2, then you're delusional. So,
well, Max has spoken.
That kind of answers your question.
Max has spoken.
No, he said he doesn't think that they would do MVC2. Like based on the campaign, they wouldn't do that so soon. Like that's something that probably be like farther down the pipeline if they actually did it.
Yeah. But I mean, just with how Street Fighter's been in the works for a while, and that firing of Ono has been a minute now. So, and I'm sure with COVID, they've kind of been really trying to kick stuff into gear of like getting it out. So it's probably gonna be what we think it is. But to get back to the topic, I really think this is a great thing, man. It'll really teach new fighting game players of remembering where they come from. Like, look at the games that have paved the way for you. Now you have no excuse of why you can't play them. We're basically in a time where like, hey man, you got time to do it. You sit in the house, you play your games, It got rollback netcode. That's what you said you want. Come on, man. Just go ahead and give it a try, bro. Just go ahead. So, you know, and I think it's really great because a lot of these older games are fantastic. And just because they're old and, you know, it's kind of like people just feel like there's no reason to play them. A lot of people really don't understand how great these games were. So, I mean, this is great for, you know, the developers and stuff like that to give themselves a greater reputation. Is good for the gamers because, you know, you have more stuff to play. Because just because Guilty Gears came out, just because Melty Blood Type Luma has come out, just because KOF 15 has come out, doesn't mean that those games will probably be your cup of tea. And now that they're releasing like older games with rollback netcode that you can play with your friends and stuff like that, you might like those while you're waiting for a newer game to come out that is actually your cup of tea. So, I mean, there's so many different positives and stuff like this. I mean, it keeps content for the FGC going. It keeps the FGC active since we're all in this online era. I mean, that's what really made TVFGC start doing social media content, because we were basically doing stuff at tournaments, and then COVID happened, and it was like stay at home, and it's like, well, what are we gonna do at home? And here we are, you know, doing what we do at home. So I think it's amazing. I mean, it's just good to keep stuff rolling, not get stagnant and just be like, well, we can't make no new stuff. I don't want to mess with the old stuff, so we just here. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I'm happy that it's happening. Hopefully that this public test goes fantastic so we can get this out as quickly as we can. And yeah, that's my take on it. So anybody else got anything they want to add?